So the big boss scam is essentially a phishing email attack where somebody will send in an email that looks like it's coming from a director with fraudulent information in it about making a payment, and they'll try and pressure the finance person into making that payment. So they've done their research ahead of time, they know who the directors are, they've looked that up on Companies House, that's freely available information. They've figured out who the finance person is. That could be looking at emails, maybe emails of another hacked computer, people you do business with. Maybe they just phone up and ask who's the right person, the financial contact, but they'll send a very convincing email with all of the right information in it to the finance person. It looks like it's come from the director, and it's asking about, can you make a quick payment? Usually it's going to say something like, I'm in the middle of securing a deal, I've just met with somebody, I've negotiated a great contract, can you quickly send over this money so I can secure that deal, so I can secure that contract, so I can settle that account? It needs to be done as soon as possible. Sometimes I'll send that account's information in the first email requesting that payment quickly, and other times I'll send an email saying, can you make an urgent payment, please reply and let me know. And then in the second email they'll send, so trying to build up a rapport, trying to make you not notice that it's a rushed transaction, a fraudulent transaction. So the scam targets any business essentially that operates in a way where the director might go and do a sales pitch or something like that out and about, that they will then request money for in order to complete a deal. So if you are doing that, and if it's normal practice for you to send an email to request payments, then obviously you are vulnerable to this sort of attack. They specifically look up directors' information, which is a publicly available record, and they specifically target people in the finance department. So it's not like a spam email that everybody in the company gets, it's much more targeted than that. They may even look up your suppliers or the people you work with to try and make the message seem more genuine. Obviously, if it pays off for them, it can be a big payout, so it's worth spending a little bit more time on each message. So I think generally the people who are most at risk is just anybody who currently operates in a way where this email, for whatever reason, wouldn't stand out, or anybody that doesn't have an IT company that's taking an interest in this sort of thing and putting all of the free technology in place to actually flag these spam messages or block these spam messages from getting through. Because even though the technology exists to help a lot with this kind of spam threat, a lot of it is not enabled by default or is turned off, or there's one antivirus program which would help you out and another that wouldn't, and they're essentially the same price, but you're on the one that doesn't have that feature. All the features there, but again it's not turned on, and that's about management of the IT infrastructure as well. So definitely check the use of language, check if there's pressure on the email. Would you normally do this? Would you normally receive an email from the director them asking for a quick payment? Does it seem legitimate? Does it seem reasonable? Have you agreed that that's how you're going to act in terms of everyday accounts? So I would definitely do that. Definitely make a phone call if you can. Check that the director, I mean, normally in the email they might make an excuse about not being able to receive a phone call, but would they really want you to transfer that amount of money if you're not sure without a phone call? So yeah, I think it's definitely about having safe checks and safeguards in place. So the big boss scam is pretty established. It's a well-known pattern that scammers use. So it does revolve around getting that email. It looks like it's come from the boss, it looks like it's come from a director, they've sent it to the correct person in finance, they're doing that kind of pressured payment. They might come up with different reasons for the pressured payment and different reasons why they can't take a phone call and all the rest of it, but you should be able to spot that scam pretty easy. Variations, so other types of scam might be somebody impersonating a supplier. So they might send some information saying, hey, we're your supplier of whatever, by the way, our bank details have changed, please make all future payments to this bank detail, or please settle your account as quickly as possible to our new bank account. And obviously what they're doing there is they're hoping that you are going to pay into that new account without any kind of verification, and obviously they're going to steal your money that way. That can be a little bit harder to spot, because it could be that the supplier's emails have actually been hacked. So it could be a genuine email in the sense that it has actually come from their account, but obviously without any of their permission, without their authorization, and with fraudulent bank details in it. So that one can be a little bit harder to spot. So there is definitely some technology solutions out there to help you, things like DKIM. So DKIM, domain key identified mail, basically attaches an ID to your email messages, and that ID can be referenced in the DNS, so publicly checked to see if that key is on each email. So that defeats a lot of phishing emails because it requires a little bit more sophistication from the attacker. But obviously if somebody is really focusing on you, so they are particularly trying to defraud you, then because that ID is publicly available, they can still inject it into the scam emails that they're going to send. So it's really just about trying to raise the bar with as much technology as possible to make it harder to, essentially, scammers are going to target the low-hanging fruit. DKIM is completely free, so it's built into things like Office 365, but it's often not turned on by default, so you just need to get your IT company to go in there and make sure they've done a good audit of your security and they've turned on those sort of key security features. There are lots of things you can do which are not technology based, so staff training obviously. So do you want to accept payments like that via payment requests like that via email? Or do you want your finance person to insist on having a particular standard form that you use? Again, just raising the threshold a little bit higher. Or do you want them to insist on having a phone call? So again, raising the threshold a little bit higher. Who in the company can authorize those kinds of payments? Is there a limit? Can somebody say they want £10,000, £20,000, £30,000 and more? Is there any kind of limit, or is there kind of a system or a process in place that the attacker might not know, might not be aware of, and then that request will really stand out because it hasn't followed that standard process that you've all agreed on in advance? So definitely contact your IT company. There are things that can be done, technologies that can be used to try and prevent and identify fraudulent emails and phishing emails. So obviously make sure you've got those in place. Don't click links, don't open attachments. You can read the email, it's safe to read it. One thing, if you suspect you're being attacked but you're not sure, is you can hit reply on the message, and then you can check whether the reply to address is the director's actual email address, because though you can send an email which will say it's from the director, when you hit reply they quite often have a different reply to address, which could be something like a Gmail or some other hacked email account that they are going to then use to reply back to you from if they're asking for any further information. Obviously don't send a reply, but it is safe to hit the reply button and have a look. If when you hit the reply button it still has the director's email account in it, but you know it's a fraudulent email, then it's quite likely that the director's email account has actually been hacked. And again, you want to get in touch with your IT company so they can figure out how they're doing that, and particularly make sure there's been no forwards put on those emails, and basically have a great big reset of all your email security in the event of that, because once they've got access to an email account like that, they can pretty much get access to anything else they want. So you'd want to reset all security at that point.